Hey there. Today we are going to talk about 8 soft skills that you need as a project manager. I'm Nikhil, a PMP and CSM certified project management professional. I'm here to help you with any project management related questions. So let's get into today's topic, the 8 soft skills that you must have or you should continue to nurture during your career. In my personal opinion, these are the 8 soft skills that you want to continuously nurture throughout your career. Whether you start in project management or you are in some other role, these soft skills will help definitely in your career advancement, especially for project management. So what are they? Communication, time management, negotiation, leadership, organizational, finance, facilitation, and presentation. These are the 8 soft skills that I believe you should continuously nurture and get trained on throughout your career. And especially if you're doing project management, then these skills are going to help you grow better or do your job better. So why are they important? That's what we're going to take a look at. Let's start with communication. So this quadrant here is very famous. You can do a Google search on quadrants of communication and you would end up with something like this. Even if you take a training on communication, this is the one thing that you definitely would see in the training plan. And it is nothing but how would you effectively communicate with different people. So the thing is, as a project manager, we have to interact with a different group of people at different levels, and not all of them takes the information that we share in the same way. Or I should say, they wouldn't understand or process the information in the same way. Some might be visual learners and some might be better off reading through email or listening to you over the phone, or they have to meet you in person, face to face. So it's not going to be all same. So let's take a look at the 4 quadrants here. So at the bottom left, we have amiable. Those are people who are very friendly, easygoing, and they need to feel safe. They don't like to be intimidated. You want to treat them as friends, and they prefer relationship over something else. So if you tell them to do something in a very friendly manner as a casual thing, they would do it for you because that's how their mind works. You can just see them over a cup of coffee and say, hey, can you do this for me? They would do that immediately for you. So if you have to get things done, so first you have to identify under which category you would group these people into. So if someone is very amiable type of personality, then you would approach to them differently than someone who is at the top right corner who's a driver. Because for driver, they would need exact short information and they need to know what exactly needs to be done. You don't have to talk them over or give them large amount of details. That could be one of the reasons that as you present to senior executives, you always have a slideshow with pictures and bullet points, because the way most of the leaders consume data is that way because they are drivers. So we covered the bottom left corner and the top right corner, which is amiable and drivers. So they are exactly opposite in a way. Now let's take a look at the other 2 quadrants opposite to each other, which is analytical and expressive. So the people who are analytic, they are very data oriented. So they would need facts. They would need details behind the fact, why you need it, what criteria should they look for. So you can think of engineers as a perfect example. So when you approach them for some information to get things done, you have to make sure that you are giving them all the detailed information, the data behind it, because they want to make logical sense of things. So they wouldn't just do it just because you requested. It needs to make sense for them in order to do them. So the bottom right corner is very expressive. So the expressive group, they prefer spontaneity and they need approvals to do things. They wouldn't do without proper approval. So when you approach those kind of people, make sure that you are approaching them differently. So as a PM, you have to go to multiple team, multiple levels in the organization. So you can't just take one form of communication and just share it with everyone, because as I said earlier, each team or each group or member consumes information differently. So you have to think about that when you're sending information and how you want them to consume the data so you can get your job done. All right, so moving on to number 2, time management. In project management, you don't need to understand this in detail because everything is time bound. There is a due date, milestone date. So we don't have to explicitly say that, time management is critical. It is part of the job. It's part of the triple constraint of time, cost, schedule, and quality. So you need to manage your time well, and not just yours, you need to manage your team or team members' time because you have to meet deadlines for your project. So time is very critical and you have to continuously nurture the time management skills. So if there are any trainings out there on how to improve the productivity of yourself or the team, or how to manage time effectively and efficiently, always take that because that will come in handy when you are doing projects. So here I have put an example of, again, one more quadrant, which is how you can manage your time. So here in this example, I have put one of the way you can manage your time, and that is using this quadrant. So if you take a look at the project or specific day-to-day activities, there'll be always tasks that comes to your way. Not everything is going to be urgent and important, right? So when you get a task, just categorize into, is it urgent, is it important, right? Once you identify that, then you can place it in one of these 4 quadrants. You can Google this up and this should come up. So the way we have it in the picture is, if there is something that is urgent and important, then it's a crisis. You need to act upon it immediately. If there is something that is important but not urgent, then that's the ideal thing because you can plan for it. You can think about how to do it effectively and efficiently, and that's the one that gives you the most freedom in a way that you can plan and execute it in the way that you wanted to do it. The bottom part of the quadrant, it's not important stuff. And again, even if it's not important, it could be urgent. So you have to take some action on that. And if it is not important and not urgent, that means it's busy work. It's just that someone thinks that you have enough time in your hands, so just assigning random work to you. So avoid those because, those are not going to make any value, or even if you are pushed to do that, try to keep it towards the end so that you can focus on the urgent and important activities. All right. So that's one example of how you can manage your time efficiently. All right, number 3, negotiation. So again, as a project management professional, we are always in the realm of negotiating with other people, whether it be to get your project done, your task completed, or to get resources for your project. We are constantly negotiating with multiple people, team, vendors, etc. So this is another XY interest and relationship. So if you have a better relationship, then the negotiation would be easy because at some point you might have done some favor for that person, so they would return the favor. So you would get things faster, better, and easier. So this quadrant is something that you can think of when negotiating. I think it's more of a sales skills, but this is something you need to improve as a project manager because the more you have a better negotiating skills, the better you would be getting your things done for the project. And negotiating skills, you can take up training, look up at the internet, what are the best way to negotiate. One thing that you commonly find is, again, this chart where it represents the interest versus relationship. So the ideal point is if you have a good relationship with the person that you are negotiating with, and that person has good interest in what you're doing, then it's a win-win situation for you as well as for him. So that's the ideal place you will be able to get things what you want successfully. Whereas if you are in a poor relationship with the person and the person has no interest in what you're doing, then it's like a lose-lose situation where either you won't get things done from him and you have to look for other options. So always look for trainings and skill set to improve negotiation skills. And the reason why it is important in project management role is you are working with cross-functional team, so you may have to negotiate with that manager to get some of your favorite resource for the project, or you might be working with the vendor and you have to negotiate the price for whatever you're purchasing, whether it be software, people, hardware, whatever the case is. So negotiation is an important skill that you need to hone as a project manager. All right, next, number 4 is leadership. Again, I have one more quadrant here. I promise you this is the last one where I have the information in this format. So you would see different leadership style. Project management is the first step in the ladder of leadership. If you look at any of your leaders in your organization, you would realize that they all have reached that level of leadership through project management. Even if it's not true, at least what they're doing still have some flavor to project management, whether it be CEO, CIO, or anyone higher up in the management. They are executing a strategy, and that strategy is gonna tie to a project. So at any point of time, they will be interested in managing projects or managing the resources directly or indirectly. As a project manager, you are stepping into that ladder of leadership. From here, there is only growth to next levels of leadership. So it's important to understand the different styles of leadership, how you can improve it. And if the organization is providing trainings on leadership skills, you should always grab that, because that is a critical piece in project management. So in here, we have different styles that I have listed out, which is directing at S1. So that's a leadership style that you don't want to do, because, even if you're delegating, that's fine. You have to direct or give some vision to the team member that you're delegating to, so that they can carry out the work. If you're not giving the details behind why you're delegating this, or the details behind the task, whoever it is delegated to, they will have hard time to do the job, because they don't understand why they're doing it. So delegation is S4. S2 is coaching, and this would come handy if you're doing agile projects, because as a scrum master, it's your job to continuously mentor and coach your team about different things, including the product as well as the project and agile methodologies. And if you look at the coaching style of leadership, it is something that the leaders would coach others to do it. So those leaders already know how to do certain things, so they don't want to spend their time doing it. Rather, they would delegate to someone and coach them to do it, and sometimes the other person can do it better. S3 on the top left corner, that is supporting role. Supportive or supporting leadership style is that as a leader, you're there to help with any impediments, but you necessarily may not know, or you're not the expert in that area. So you can support with the resources what the other person needs, but you wouldn't be able to do the job because you're not an expert. So you would find such leaders, which is also fine. These are different leadership style to think about, because you wouldn't be expert in everything as a project manager. So sometimes you have to switch between delegation, coaching, supportive, and directive. So, and then the last one is directing, which is like a commanding role. You tell exactly, you have to do this, and come back once you're done. So that is exactly telling what to do, how to do, when to do. So that's another leadership style that you would do as part of project management. So again, depending on the project and the nature of the activity, you might switch up between any of this leadership style to get your things done. That's why it's important to hone these skills and continuously develop any leadership skills that is available. All right, now moving on to the next 4 items. This is more of a practice rather than training, and I'm going to tell you how and why this is important. And if you have an option to train yourself and get better at these 4, then that's also going to help you in the project management career. And it definitely adds value for project management, whereas these things are must have for project management. And to do your job better, it's always good to improve these 4 skills that I'm going to talk now. So the 5th one is organizational. So I don't know if it is a word, but organization meaning it's not the organization you're working for. It's more getting organized for a project or the task that you're assigned to. So as a project manager, you are the single point of contact for the entire project. So if they have a question, they're going to come to you. As a sponsor or customer, if they have a question, they're going to come to you. So even though you're not the hands-on person in all the tasks, so you should be able to get handle of things. You should know where things are buried you should know where to look for information and all that details. Obviously, you should have your project plan and risk and issues and all that, because we do that. But apart from that, let's say some technical activities that you were working on, or the team member was working on the project, and let's say he's on vacation and someone has a question, guess what? They're going to come to you and ask, hey, what about this? Can you give me some information? So even if you're not able to give the detailed information, you should be able to give sufficient information so that that person who asked the question can get some data, and then they can go and reach out and dig further later. You are the single point of contact where everyone is going to come to you and ask questions, and getting things in an organized way, it helps you to provide that answers pretty efficiently or faster, if you will, and that will also help to reduce and manage your time effectively. So that's why I put organizational skill as a key element of soft skills that you need to develop as a project manager. And also as a PM, you are going to keep all the project artifacts, different documents throughout the project. Sometimes if there is an audit or for some other reason after project is closed, it can still come back to you and ask, hey, as a PM, can you tell me where this is? And if you have not organized the data in a way that you can search back later, then it would consume a lot of time. So it's always good to get organized right from the beginning and throughout the project so that you have the data at your fingertips. All right, so the next one, number 6, is finance. And finance is a critical piece in project management. At the very least, you should have a good understanding of what the budget and tracking is, because obviously all projects have project funding. Throughout the project, you're going to spend that amount to make sure that you're paying out for the project cost. You should have a way to track it. So you need to understand the basics of finance. You don't have to deep dive into, but it's good to have a good understanding of the basics and fundamentals of finance, which will help you to manage your project finances better. And you can look for terms such as the actuals, budget, forecast, and all these things. You can also think about finance as how do you track it, when to accrue, what is invoicing, what is purchase order, sales order, what is SOW. These are different parts of project management where you would have some piece of finance related to it. And it's always good to have a finance counterpart working with you closely so you can manage the project finances better. So when you get a chance, always look in Investopedia to see what are different terms. And if you're not clear, you can always do a Google search and find out. At the very minimum, you should have a good understanding of what is capital expense and operating expense. It's gonna come in a discussion at some level, so it's better to have those basic understanding, which will help you in your project management career. And apart from that, we as a project managers are responsible for tracking the budget and the actuals. So you have to think about the cost performance index, CPI, how you're tracking against. And if you have option to get trained on the finance or project finances, then I would definitely say that grab that opportunity and get trained. All right, we are now moving on towards the end of the list here. Next one is presentation. This is similar to communication. You can maybe combine it together. Presentation is something that as a PM, you are supposed to do every once in a while, whether it be weekly status meeting, monthly steering committee, or reporting out to leadership. So you are always asked to present the project status. So you should have a way to communicate the status, issues, risk, decisions, and help you need in a presentable format where you can present it, where the audience can get a glimpse of what the project is, and at the same time get all the help that you need from the people who are presenting to. I remember I had a team member, he was my colleague, my peer, and he would even care about the font size and the font when presenting to different leaders based on what they like and how would they like to see the information. So you would be surprised to see, different leaders have different style and liking about how you present. So you always want to tweak to the way that what is most favorable for them. you have to present in that format, because then it's easy for you to get your things, approvals or whatever you are looking from that leader, if you cater the presentation to the likings of what they have seen or what they used to see. Again, in my opinion, presentation is one of the soft skills that you always want to continuously improve throughout your career. All right, now moving on to the number 8, the last one. Finally, we have reached the end of the list. So this is facilitation. So as a project manager, you can think yourself as a host doing a party at your home. So as a host, you have to make sure that your guest is very comfortable. They get the drinks when they walk in, they are enjoying the party. So as a PM, think about scenarios where you have to do a 7-day meeting or a full day meeting. So you have to think about all the things that is need to be set up for that meeting. Especially if it is a full day event, then you have to send out the agenda. So if people have to travel, book their travel and come to a place, then they can plan for that. And on the day of the meeting, you have to make sure that you have a printout of the agenda, you set the ground rules. So you have to think about many other things than just hosting the meeting. So you have to be a good facilitator. So sometimes you would have to take a printout of all the agenda items and then hand it over during the presentation. If you're running agile project, you have to make sure that you come with sticky notes and paper so people can write and stick it on the wall and things like that. So think about anything that you would do as a host doing a party. It applies to the project management, where you have to think about anything and everything about a meeting and organize it effectively. So if you are hosting a lunch meeting, make sure the lunch is ordered and it is served. Always try to be a better facilitator and try to improve those skills. All right, so that's the end of all the 8 skills that I wanted to share and why it is important, and some details about what I think about those different 8 skills. I hope this video helped you to gain some understanding of the different soft skills that is required as part of project management. If you have more ideas or suggestions, let me know in the comment section below and we can continue the discussion in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. If you're new here, consider subscribing for more project management videos. All right, guys, that's all for today. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.